recently Databox CEO Pete Caputa recently posted on LinkedIn that the company replaced 80% of its customer support and sales development staff with an AI chatbot and actually improved results by 40%. So it's important to note, as Caputa does multiple times in the post and in the comments, that the company reduced their headcount well before adopting AI for this use case. He said he had 40 people on the sales development and customer support teams, but had to reduce headcount to 8 because the anticipated demand they had hired for didn't materialize. Now, well after that, the company then deployed Intercom's Finbot, which now resolves about half of all their customer chats instantly. So that freed up human reps to focus on personalized outreach to high potential leads, helping drive more revenue. Now, Caputa said that Finbot's customer satisfaction scores can still lag behind humans, but its speed and consistency make up for it. And Databox actually improved its results by feeding it better content, like integration-specific help docs and use case forums to handle the long tail of customer questions. Now, he also admits the kind of next evolution of this is a bit harder. Giving bots the ability to log into accounts and then troubleshoot things like a human would could present some roadblocks. But he also says 18 months ago, he wouldn't have believed how far they could have gotten already with AI. Now, Paul, you know Pete, and we're all familiar with Databox, having used this software. I'm curious about your thoughts here. Pete himself said he hesitated at times to share this story. There were definitely some negative comments about his decision on this post as well, but also this is a pretty impressive case study of what's possible.
Yeah, so Pete and I go back a long time. So Pete was the architect of the HubSpot partner program. And again, any longtime listeners that would know, my agency, my former agency that I sold in 2021 was HubSpot's first partner back in 2007. So Pete and I go back all the way to the origins of the partner program at HubSpot. And then he moved over to Databox. I don't know how long he's been CEO there. It's been a while. I want to say it's like 6 or 7 years maybe. So yeah, we've stayed connected. Pete's a good friend, and he was not, I would say, and probably admittedly himself, he was not an early adopter of AI. Like I remember pushing Pete back in like 2017, 18, 19. I was like, dude, you should be building AI into the business intelligence platform, and here's all the opportunities. And to his credit, like he came around, and now he's like all in on infusing it into their product, and obviously now into their business. And I think he was pretty clear that, as you highlighted, Mike, these layoffs weren't because of AI. He didn't
Right.
reduce the staff, but he, as I was just saying in the previous note, he is reducing the number of new hires by using AI. We just won't need as many people going forward. And so that's the right approach. But I do think that we're going to hear a lot more stories like this where the layoffs will have been because of AI. So there's going to be a lot of instances now. Again, I know these things are happening. I hear firsthand these things are happening, but people aren't saying publicly yet, this is why it's happening, but they will. So you will have layoffs because of AI, because you see leaders who look at teams and say, we don't need 5 people doing that anymore. You will figure it out with 2 of you, because they know that AI is now capable of assisting these different roles. And again, it's across departments, but it's starting in like marketing is a big one right now. Sales is a big one. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have leaders put constraints on teams and challenge them to achieve new levels of efficiency and productivity with AI. And again, I'm not saying this is the right approach. I'm just telling you it's happening now, and it's going to happen at a much bigger scale as the year goes on. And as a business leader, there's no greater way to drive innovation than to create deadlines and restraints. So if everything is great and like there's no real limits on budgets and we have as many people as you could possibly need to do whatever you want, people get lazy. And so this is like the tech culture. This is driven largely in tech. It is constrain resources and then help people realize what they're actually capable of doing under constrained resources. And so I think, given the economy, given a number of other advancements in AI models, I think you're going to see leaders who put constraint resources on their teams and say, you can produce greater with fewer people. We believe you can, now go do it. And they're going to challenge them to do it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be maybe fun to be like in an AI emergent company that
Mm.
has maybe hundreds of people in your marketing department and you don't think you need as many. You have to make some difficult decisions. But it's going to happen. And it's happening. It's just not being publicly talked about yet. They're what I call quiet AI layoffs, that
Mm.
there are layoffs happening that are not being put underneath that headline, but they will be.
I think it's really just worth reiterating that this is such a useful piece of AI related career advice, too, I would say, just as someone like myself who's trying to navigate this, is really if you can take a step back and get some perspective and pretend you are the CEO of a company. Think about like Pete, go to Pete's post to start because he
Yeah.
goes into the hard parts of his decisions that he had to make. He's like, well, here's what I was thinking. Here's how I thought about it. Not everyone understands the decisions I have to make. Like, that's a good barometer for how you want to be thinking about AI in your own career and function, I think.
Yeah. And the other one, Mike, that, came up in some conversations last week is take your top players, take the people on your team who are figuring this out, who are listening to podcasts, taking online courses, reading books, like they're doing everything to figure it out, and they're pushing like the limits of ChatGPT and Google Gemini and the prompting, and they're testing out all these new tools. Those people are going to 10x the value they create on a team. How in the world can you talk to that person in like an annual review when they're looking around seeing the other people on their team who aren't doing anything?
Mm.
They don't know how to prompt anything. They're not using ChatGPT. They haven't taken any initiative to learn AI. And now you have someone who's like creating 2, 3, 10x the value. And all of their prompts are the ones that everybody else is using. And they're the ones that are like educating the rest of the team. How do you talk to that person with a straight face and say, yeah, we're going to keep everybody else around? Like, well, eventually they'll figure it out. It's like, no, because now as the person on that team who's doing all this work,
Right.
I'm like looking around saying, where can I go where I'm going to be really valued and I'm not going to be pulled down by everybody who's not figuring this out and refuses to like use AI. So I think that that's where you're going to have these AI forward practitioners who want to be around other AI forward practitioners. And they don't want to be kept down compensation wise, career trajectory wise, when they're the one who's doing everything that's being asked of them, or maybe not even being asked yet. They're just like the innovator on the team, and they
Mm.
start to feel like they're being constrained by their leadership who maybe doesn't understand AI or by their peers who refuse to use it. So again, there's just basic business fundamentals that tell us things are going to change, like they have to, or the best talent is going to leave and go somewhere where that talent's appreciated.